welcome back. I am very excited for this next guest. We have somatic wellness, embodiment coach, educator, and founder of the BodyVox, Court Vox. Welcome, Court.
Beep, beep, beep,
Thank you so
beep.
much. Ta-da!
I love that. Welcome to Pride the Podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
As I told you in the green room, this is our season end episode, and we're so blessed it's with you. So we have a lot to get into. I know we don't
Great.
have you for long, but we want to just give you a little moment to talk to our listeners about your journey. How did you become a sex and intimacy coach?
Yeah, so I have to go back a little bit further because I mean, I think, erotic journeys are long.
Of course.
But, I feel like I've always been a very erotic person, very sexual. I was a very sexual child. And
Mhm.
then, things happened along the way and I kind of closed. And, there was a lot of messages and things around HIV that I was receiving in my 20s where I felt a lot of fear around sex. And so I was in two really long-term relationships and I didn't have a lot of sex. And when I came out of the second one in my 30s, Truvada had come on the market, and
Mhm.
so did Grinder and the apps. And so it was sort of this like perfect storm of like permission.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is it. I'm gonna I'm gonna explore.
Yeah,
And
you're
Take,
gonna get
I
out
was
there.
gonna say, take the bull by the horns.
yeah, I did. I explored. I had so much sex and I had so much fun. And I started coming to a place where it became more of a pathway of self-discovery and self-exploration. It wasn't necessarily just about the sex. It was like processing things with my therapist and exploring fantasies and desires and stepping more into roles that felt alive for me in that moment.
Mhm.
Um, like sort of like 36, I think, I started studying Shibari rope bondage,
Mhm.
and I was working for Disney at the time.
Love that. Oh, I
What
love
a
that
what a
I
great
love
erotomy.
it.
yeah. I was gonna say
I
Disney and
love
what a great
bondage, they go
Yeah,
together.
exactly. And I met this woman at a class, and I said I need somebody to practice with, and she volunteered. And so I went to her house, and we practiced maybe once or twice. And she was a therapist that worked with the nervous system. And then people weren't talking about the nervous system like they are now.
right.
And I was kind of intrigued, and I said I really want to get out of corporate, and I want to be a sex therapist, but not one that just talks to people. I want to do something that's embodied. I want to do something that's, touch based, that's experiential. And I was like, I don't think there is something like that. And she said, have you heard of somatic sex education, sexological body work? And I went to my car and I think I signed up for that training within 2 weeks. And then I spent the next 2 years studying. I also became a surrogate partner, which is a different modality, but same. So I took some time. I had a different job at the time. I worked for a Chinese e-commerce company. It was a startup, and I had a lot of freedom, so I could travel and study at my desk with nobody kind of over me. And yeah, I took the time to transition. It was very clear and intentional that this is what I was going to do, and here I am.
I no, I
Wow, I
really love
love
that.
that. I love that journey.
Thank
And
you.
like you took it on like upon yourself. Nobody was like, "Oh, hey, like join this, like come with me." Like,
Mhm.
kind of it was like a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it was something that
yeah,
you found
On your own.
intriguing. Yeah, and like was like, "You know what? I'm gonna learn this." I love that.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I really love this conversation because as the people on our podcast know, I'm the more sexual one. I
You're
talk about
sex positive.
I talk about sex the most. I was
Mhm.
just to say that it's been a big part of my life, like growing up in college, and I explored a lot more. There were things that I was learning and doing as well. So I appreciate being able to see someone who can admit that as well. It's just like I think that so many times people are shy about sex, and I understand that there are some things that, especially when it comes to intimacy, you should keep between you and your partner or you and whoever you're with at the time. But I do believe that like not talking about sex at all can make other people who like want to talk about sex feel maybe ashamed. And do you
Mhm.
feel like that you had any of those type of moments at
Hmm.
all?
I think how we talk about sex is really the more important question. It's not about if we're talking about sex, because I think, people can get into like the salacious pornographic of like, and then got deep throated. And but there's what those stories lack is a specific vulnerability and awareness of self,
Mm.
and talking about some of the things that might have been challenging or pieces of yourself that you discovered. And I think those resonate more with people because I think we assume, especially with gay men, that gay men are just out there having the best time of their lives and the best sex and all the sex, and they're at clubs and and what I know is that that is actually not that true, that there
Yeah.
are a certain subset of people doing that. And then there's a lot of people that are struggling with sexual trauma. They're struggling with residual physical trauma. They're
Mm.
struggling with religious trauma,
Yeah.
societal, family, cultural. Just the way that our parents talked about sex and how it was discussed or not discussed in our upbringing really influences our own feelings and images of our bodies. And even I'll just say, as queer and queer brown people, of there are images constantly in our face of what beauty is supposed to be and what it's supposed to look like, and that gets internalized. And then we kind of go, I'm supposed to be having the time of my life, and why am I hurting?
Mm.
And
Wow. Yeah.
I'm expected to talk about, like, I'm having, I just got fucked real hard last night by this guy, and but it's like inside I'm like, actually it wasn't that good. I felt empty at the end, or it was really good, but I wish it was longer, and I wish he would have stayed and cuddled me after. There's
Oof,
these,
yeah.
yeah, there's like these pieces that are missing from erotic and sexual narrative, just because they're harder to have.
Yeah.
They're much
I
harder
agree
to
with you.
have.
I agree with that 100%.
Well,
I
what unique challenges do you feel that a lot of queer people or queer men specifically have to go through with intimacy? Like, what do you feel like is comes up a lot?
I think it's, I just wrote a piece for um, a UK paper, and the question was, what is the most common thing you could tell about men? And it was
mm.
like, wow, this is a really big question of, like, to name what's the most common issue affecting men. It's like men we're so different. It's like we're from different races, we're different colors, we're from different ages, we're from different time periods, where men over 40 experienced collective trauma of HIV, and that has definitely affected the way that they have sex or don't have sex.
Mhm.
I think
Mm.
there's also the cultural narratives of the shoulds, right? I should be
Mhm.
doing this, I should be wanting this, I should be hypersexual. And in reality, I'm demisexual or I'm pansexual. I'm not even fucking gay. And that is a stigma too. Like, when I express to people my pansexuality or my bisexuality, the cringe that I get from gay men is
Mhm.
so intense. I'm like, did you forget? Did you forget all of the discrimination you received coming out? And here I am expressing a part of myself, and you have no room for it. Just
Mhm.
because, I have capacity and desire to be with women sometimes, and you don't understand that, doesn't mean that it's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it's education. I mean, I think, and we talk about this a lot, it's education. There are people who, I've talked to Ashley and I about it a lot. Like, there are women who's like, if a guy is with another guy that I like, or a guy has bisexual or pansexual, like, I don't. The women have said that, oh,
Mhm,
I don't want that. I don't want to be with that person because I see them as gay. Because a lot
mhm.
of people in the world only see people as straight or gay. And if I think that females get a little bit of a pass, if they're with other women, they're like, ah, yeah. For men, since it's real about patriarchy, they're like, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
But and that's a problem as well. But I think with men who are bisexual or pansexual or bi-curious, if they have one situation with a male, the world writes them off as you're gay. And I think that people have not came around to realizing there's so much in between, and it's upsetting, and it's a lot of reason why people don't
Mhm.
come out, or people don't say, like,
yeah,
oh, this is what I'm doing. And that's why I feel like a lot of the times, not all the time, but a lot of the times, down low was invented, or men who are doing that, because it's like,
yeah.
well, I don't want to tell nobody because they'll think I'm gay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's interesting is there's a shadow piece around that, because if you look at, so Pornhub releases their analytics once a year from the year
Yep.
prior, and it's so fascinating to see what people are watching. And one of
Yep.
the
Mhm.
that the number one viewers of gay porn is women. It's
Mm-hmm.
straight women and gay women, lesbian women.
Oh, don't I know
Yes.
it?
women.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're looking at.
I said, don't I know it?
I remember like watching the movie The Kids Are All Right. And
Yeah.
the main couple, they were watching gay porn, and I was like, oh, that was my first time. Like, oh, okay, everybody's into it. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it ain't just me. That's what that sounded like to me. That sounded like it wasn't just me. I do appreciate
You're
it.
like looking around the room. You're like, oh.
But Court, in that same vein, there are a lot of gay men who watch straight porn. And
Yeah.
people don't understand. And they're like, well, why are you watching straight porn
Well,
if
it's
you're
not
gay?
for them to understand.
And again, it's not for
Stay
them to
out my
understand,
bedroom.
but it's people having such a narrow view when it comes to sex. So thankful that there are people like you who are breaking this mold and being like, things aren't so black and white when it comes to sex. Like, so I'm gay, so I should only watch gay porn. And if you're straight, you should only watch straight porn. That's not how it
I
works.
feel like people act like that sexuality is that black and white when like
They
I
do.
feel like the best word for sexuality is spectrum.
Oh, 100%.
Yes, 100%.
And
It's
They don't
sort of
want their
like,
spectrum because they think of rainbow, and then here we go.
if you're looking at the world as 5 colors or 5 notes, you're not hearing like all the other spectrum of colors
Yeah.
and sounds in between. You're just narrow, and
Yeah.
I think that comes with people's bodies too. I mean, we're in a like fix it culture where something is wrong with you, and we go to diagnose something that's wrong, and it's based on however many subset of people have had that ailment before. But what's true is like there are people that work on a more holistic level with the body, and will go, something's wrong with your liver, let's like check out your posture or your pelvic floor or your feet, like what's going on with the rest of your body. And those aren't questions that traditional medical doctors are asking. They're like, I'm going to send you to this specialist that only works with feet or
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
works with livers. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, what about the rest of the body? You may be missing something,
Or it's quick to be like, lose weight. Have you tried losing weight? Like,
right?
have you tried
Mhm.
resting, sleeping? Bitch.
Right.
Don't you know? Like, I know all of those things, but I have the question.
I do have a question. It might back us up a little bit, but what you're describing, is that what somatic practice is? Is like
I mean,
hearing.
somatic means of the body. So, I'm not a traditional coach or therapist where I'm just talking to people. You're not going to come sit on my couch and we're going to talk all day. You're going to come to my studio and we are going to be moving. We're going to be breathing. We're going to be practicing touch exercises. We're going to be working around consent practices and understanding your yes and your no through touch, through experiential learning. You might receive body work, sexual body work, sensation, play. There's just a plethora of things to play with and discover. And it's sort of like I liken it to like a buffet or a sandbox with a lot of toys in it. And you get to go, I've always been interested in that. And, this feels like a safe place to explore it because you know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I also know that you're not going to shit on my parade and be like, that's disgusting. Why would you want that? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big one of yucking people's yum. And we do it really
Kink
subtly.
shaming.
Yeah, kink
Yeah.
shaming or
100%.
body shaming.
Mm.
Sometimes it's so subtle. Like, I remember I had this friend in high school and she would say things like, oh my God, your hair looks so good. Not all scraggly like it used to. It's like this kind of like, oh, well, we could have just stopped at, your hair looks good.
Right.
Yeah, it's always the backhandedness for me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, bitch, you could have just left it right there.
And people
But
don't.
what do you
Right.
mean? I look like shit every other day? or what?
Exactly. And now I got questions about not only our friendship, but about every compliment before then that you have said, because it brings that. So I kind of want to get into, was there a pivotal moment or experience that shifted your relationship with your own sexuality? Because you talked a little bit about your pansexual and bisexuality era. Like, was there something that shifted for you with that?
I mean, I think there's been multiple pivotal points and they're continuing. I mean, I think about my sexuality and everyone's um, as an evolution, right? We are evolving as people and our sexuality and our interests also evolve. But I think in my 30s, in my 20s, I was more of a bottom. And in my 30s, I came out of this relationship and I was like, I'm really going to explore top energy and dominating energy, and I did. And I think, that was a big turning point for me of also having the freedom there. And, there's specific kind of challenges that come with that as well that, I'm not going to get into now. But I was also at a workshop in like 2019 in Brooklyn with mostly queer women. It was like 3 men and maybe like 15 queer women.
Mhm.
And I had this incredible connection with this woman. Like, it was like, I was like, what is this? Right? What am I feeling? What am I kind of experiencing with her? And it was like, I was aroused, and I kind of just had the space to go with it. And also, at some point, she shared, I have no desire to be with cis het men.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, wow. And about 5 other women raised their hand and said the same thing. And it was
Mm.
sort of this like, are you guys hearing this beep that comes up?
No.
No.
Okay,
No.
good. Okay, good. So it was this sort of recognition of, we talked about earlier of like, a lot of straight women are like, I don't want him because he's gay. These
Mhm.
women were saying, I actually want you because you are
Right.
queer. I
Yeah.
have no interest
Yeah.
in being with a man who is narrow. I want to be someone who is open on a spectrum like I am. And so that was sort of like that was a big aha moment for me, and it was a permissioner to explore.
Mhm.
Um, and it also put me in the direction of working with women too. About 50% of my work is with predominantly cis het women.
Mm.
Um, don't work a lot with lesbian women, not because I wouldn't want to, but it's just not, they don't come to me. But
Yeah,
Sure,
right.
I
sure.
would send them, to a lesbian woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like going back, my quick thing on education, it's because people don't understand gender and sexuality are two different things, and they try to tie them in
Yeah.
together. They try to say, "Oh, well, if you're this, then you're this," and it's just like that's just not how things are. And I think the media and things they demonize it. They say like, "Oh, this is what it is," and I hate every time I hear, especially for men. Like I said, I feel like they get it a lot worse in this. It's like if you have any experience with another man, you're gay and there's no coming back from it. And I just really feel like that hurts a lot of situations.
It's like that
Mhm.
episode of Sex and the City when Carrie starts dating that
Bisexual
bisexual
guy.
guy.
She's always been awful, huh?
Well, yeah.
She's
And
always been
going,
awful.
you go back and watch, and they're just like, God, Carrie, you're so cringe. Like, just
Yeah.
It's not just
Yes.
Carrie. Miranda's the one who said,
yeah, that's true.
what the thing about Gay Town,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it being a stop.
Oh, it's just
being-
it's just a pit stop.
pit
And
stop.
and look at her now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at
well,
her now.
no.
Yeah.
Look at
And
her now.
what's interesting is you watch that show and you see that it hasn't aged well.
No.
And honestly,
No.
the new series is not holding either. It gets
I
so
mean,
much
listen,
That's what
criticism.
I heard.
they're struggling with plot,
Yeah.
They're
let
struggling.
It's
alone
not
sexuality.
good.
Yeah,
Oh my
like
God.
they struggle. Me and Ashley just talked about this earlier. It's like I'm not sure because listen, Ashley and I kind of share this sentiment. Like we will watch if we like something, the originator of it, we will watch it, give it a chance, go all the way through with it. But earlier we were both like, "What is happening with?" And just like that,
I don't
what's going
know.
on? Like,
The plot's
and
confused.
it's
The
just
Yeah.
sexuality
but
is
it's this
confused.
particular season. At this point, I'd rather have Che Diaz show back up. Like, if this is what we're gonna be doing,
Ooh.
because what's going on feels so
Cringy.
disjointed.
Yep.
It feels
Yes.
like
Yeah.
people are writing the show. But let's go back to somebody
Yeah.
who knows about Sex in the City. So
You
go ahead.
have a
The city
question,
of LA.
right? Right.
Yeah.
How do you define intimacy, and how does it differ from sex? Because for me, when I hear the word sex, it immediately evokes just like an intimate act. But
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like this question.
Yeah, I like that
Adam.
too. I want to know.
I think also this is a spectrum as well of like, there are some people that are, would say to me, getting fucked is not intimate, but kissing is super intimate, right? It's everybody has
I've been one
their
of those.
you've been one of those or been with one of them, right? There's like different people have different definitions of intimacy and sex, and I think when people come together, whether that's for I don't know that you would necessarily have that discussion with a hookup. Oh, are you guys there?
Yeah.
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 Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
lose us?
Sorry, something just happened.
Oh.
My screen went away.
Oh,
Hold
we're still
on.
here. We still see you.
Okay, there we go.
Mhm.
I lost my train of thought. So
You were talking about the spectrum of intimacy.
And then
Yeah.
just with a hookup, you don't know if you'd have
So,
discrimination.
I don't know if you necessarily have this discussion with a hookup, but definitely somebody that you're thinking about being in partnership with of how do you define intimacy? How do you define sex? When I work with couples, I ask that question, and a lot of times I'll have them write it on a piece of paper and then they have them change, and then they read it out loud, and it's different. And I'm like, okay, so here's like already where we're kind of missing one another.
Mhm.
Like, can we come up with a shared ideology around what sex and intimacy is? Um, Intimacy can also be something that we share with friends and family. There's different types of intimacy, experiential intimacy. I know I have with my best friend who I've known since I was 5 years old, and no one knows me like she does. And yet, I don't have the same intimacy with my lover who I've been with 2 years, or my son, or my mother. Those are very different types of intimacy. And sometimes in partnership, too much intimacy of I know you too well, or we're together too much, can actually drive people away from having sex because it's too familiar. And what people tend to kind of struggle with is the balance between security and novelty. Right? We want to feel secure in the relationship. We want to know that we're the one, that we have somebody to come home to. And then we also get really bored with security because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this again? I know exactly where you're going to put your hand next. I know exactly how long this is going to be. And for women especially, and we think this is a men's thing, but for women, they're like, I'd rather not eat.
Yeah.
You're not going to give me a different meal? I'd rather just not eat.
Word.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go through the drive-through real quick, if you know what I mean.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I think men are more apt to do that of like, I'll just do this thing quickly and, get it done with somebody else. And I also think there's nothing wrong with that. There's different types of meals for different days. When we start to get into judgment of the hierarchy of different experiences, we start to push ourselves back into shame spaces of, oh, I had this hookup and fuck, I told myself I wasn't going to do that anymore. And I was only going to have loving sex. And it's like,
Were you literally in the house this week when I was discussing this very thing? Because I was just about to say that
It's the whole I re-download, I do it, I feel disgusting.
yeah.
I or delete again.
Delete it again.
And it's like
it's not even the
well, you know
for
what?
me, it's the re-download saying I'm specifically not gonna talk to this particular person on
And then
Grindr
texting that
again.
person
And
back.
then at the end of the night, which is why I think that for not just gay men, but I mean I know it's heavy there, but for any community, alcohol and any type of drugs, it adds to it because they're like, oh, it makes me more like inhibition. I'm just like, fine, I'll do it. And then I always get so mad when I'm like, oh, this guy, I know I said I wasn't sleeping with him no more, y'all, but I was bored. It was
But you know what? I noticed in our friend group, no one judges you.
no, no. No, no. Adam can't judge me because he right there with me. No, but I think no, I think that it's very interesting about that, and I think this is really good for me.
So I wonder. So you mentioned, it becomes routine, and it's just like I would just rather not eat. So then that leads to you see a huge part of the gay community in like open relationships, or they open it up to like thruples and stuff like that. Like, what are your thoughts and opinions on that? Because I see a lot of people who are like they clutch their pearls at the idea, and it's just like, well, what, like you said earlier, like don't yuck my yum.
Don't
Like
yuck
I'm
anybody's
trying
yum.
something new, or whatever. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I would love for people to be a little more curious instead of going to places of judgment, right? So when we don't understand something, we go to a place of judgment rather than, wow, that's really interesting. Like, tell me more about how you made that decision. Like, how do you guys work out? Are you open to these questions? I'm really curious about it. Instead of like, ooh, you must have a really hard time at work. And what do you say to your mom? Which is questions and curiosity from a place of judgment rather than, I'm really interested to know this because I'm a curious person. And like, how how might, even if I don't ever move into the space of like, this is me like wanting to know you more, and there's intimacy in that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It always
Mhm.
comes
tie
back.
back.
I love
Yeah.
that. It's
So,
a callback.
um, I wanted to ask about like, so in your sessions are like very I was going to use the word intimate, but I'm not sure if that's
They
right.
are. They are intimate.
um, how do you go about creating like safety and like boundary in that space?
Yeah, I mean, those are really important. I think when I run retreats and I have privates of my own, people often comment, I feel so safe here. I feel like I could tell you anything. I feel like I could experience and explore anything. And there are, and my kind of clap back is sort of like, well, let me tell you how we did this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This didn't just
Mhm.
happen, right?
Mhm.
So somebody that comes to work with me, I don't see clients for like an hour or even like a 3 hour block. It's 3 days. And so
Wow.
somebody coming to work with me
Wow.
is really invested in this learning. They're
Mhm.
invested from a time perspective, from a money perspective, from an energy perspective, and they're interested, right? That person usually takes about a year to actually make the call with me and pull the trigger. They'll say to me, I heard about you from a friend. I heard you on a podcast. I read an article about you and I've been on your newsletter for a year and I've been wanting to do this and I finally have the time and the money. And so there's a lot of built in just by way of reading about me and the way that I speak and the way that I connect digitally. But then there's also a lengthy intake process. I have an intake form that's about 5 pages long. It takes about an hour to fill out.
Oh
From
wow.
there, we have a call and we talk about, intentions and goals and then from there, people show up, they arrive, and we have more discussion about what we're doing. There's always choice from the client. I always give options of like, here's what I think might be great for you based on what we've discussed. How do you feel about it in this moment? Right? Not yesterday or 3 weeks ago, but in this moment, how do you feel? And really inviting people to tap into internal knowing in the moment and not overriding like, well, I'm here and I should do this. It's like, we're going to actually go with the other thing which feels more alive for you and not a red. And there's a difference between feeling like a hard no in your body and something that feels kind of curious and scratchy. And the curious and scratchy piece is that's where I want people to be. It's like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's what we're going to explore. Not the hard no and not the thing that feels super easy, but the thing that's like, this feels scratchy and I still want to see what it is.
Mm.
I love that.
Like it's still
Yeah.
interesting in the curiosity of it. Yeah.
Have you always had like people come to you and just felt like comfortable? Like has that always just been a thing throughout your life?
Yeah.
Because I can sense that I feel totally comfortable speaking with you now. Like it's
Yeah.
just like I was just like, you know what? Let me talk to you about my relationship real quick.
I know. I'm gonna be
I'm
like,
like,
so
I'm
something
like,
you said resonated with me.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And like you
Uh,
always just had that aura.
Maybe.
Mm.
I think, my mom is like that. People will just meet her on a plane and tell her their whole life
My mom
story.
too.
But
Right.
my mom said to me something which still makes me emotional because she really means it. But I say it to clients and I say it to my own son, which is there's nothing you can do or say or have thought of that you want to do that I haven't done, thought of, or want to do myself. And so
Wow.
Hmm.
never feel shame about coming to me.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Mom.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a
That's
lot of
such
my
an
mom.
amazing thing to
That's
say
a
to your
Yeah.
child.
But she
For
Wow.
also
anyone.
really means it. She means it. Every time
Aw.
I've brought something to her, she listens, she sits with it, resonates with it, she never judges. So it's like she backs up the words.
You're really blessed, and I actually think you hit
Mhm.
something really important on the head. And I know actually you probably have something you want to ask as well, but I wanted to just say you really hit something on the head about the fact that sometimes the issue is people can't go to maybe their parents. There's
Hmm.
a lot. There's used to be a thing that people say that their parents had the birds and bees talk with them. I
Mm-hmm.
think for a lot of queer people, they didn't get that
We missed
opportunity,
out.
and we missed out because it's like we were at that point trying to code switch and trying to maybe hide our
Yeah.
identity, figure out our identity. I used to tell people that who I was at home was very different than I was at school. Now, I didn't get home and be like, oh, I like the girls, but I definitely got home and toned down
You
who I
got quiet.
was
Yeah.
that was different at school. And I think that I'm in a place now where I'm a grown adult now, and I can be myself. But I think there's so many queer children that don't have that opportunity to go to a parent and say, hey, so I would love to talk to you about condoms or not condoms or any of that stuff,
Yeah.
but they can't because they're talking about it from a queer perspective.
Right. I 100% agree with you there. However, I do think in today's, like, these kids today have access to a lot more Glee.
Well,
You know what I
also
mean?
because we
They
are the
have a
parents.
lot more
We're the parents.
Right,
Right,
right.
We're the
exactly.
parents. That's why it's okay.
Now these children, they have a lot more access to
Mhm.
different kinds of. I mean, the
Media.
only they have to different types of media.
Mhm.
Bitch, we were in AOL chat rooms like
If
Yeah.
you bring up
ASL,
AIM one more
you
time,
know?
yeah.
It's just like we had to.
We had to
We had
dig
You
to
it.
have to
learn
figure
our
it out.
own.
So our first porns were
Yeah.
for me. I didn't watch gay porn in the beginning because I didn't have access to it. So I had to
To watch.
I had to steal like the videotapes from like
Oh, you guys
my
are
older
really old.
I would
okay, get
search
it.
for like I would do like a straight porn search just in case if I did get caught, it was like
Oh.
that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I had my
Mm.
bear porn on VHS,
Oh.
Right.
They had bear porn on VHS.
and but they found that too. So I mean,
Oh.
whatever. I
You were
was fucked
busted.
either way.
You wouldn't slick.
Right.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Court.
I think this is where representation in media actually really matters. And
Yes.
um, there's this whole thing happening right now with the couple that does home renovations from Texas, and how people are like wanting to boycott their show because there's a family that's a gay dads that have two kids, and it's like,
I didn't know that, but now I'll watch.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's always this comment from those types of people that's like, it's fine if you want to do that, but you don't have to put it in our face. And it's
But
like,
you put your
yeah,
stuff in our faces.
exactly. As queer people, we're like bombarded all the time with romantic love from straight people and, kissing and PDA. And yet I still have to monitor myself when I hold my partner's hand in terms of
Mhm.
where we are and feeling hypervigilance around, am I safe here to do this or put my arm around
Yep.
him? My ex is Latino from Honduras, and still when we would go places, I would put my arm around him and he'd be like, I don't think we should do that here. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Bad.
you're okay. This is an okay place. I have you, right? But still, we'd be at like the Grove,
Yeah.
and again, that's a like a somatic response to an experience that happened that's still living in his body, even though there is no imminent threat in the moment. It's there.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is a threat, like certain parts of Los Angeles or different parts of the world. I might code switch, and
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
and some of us are luckier than others to be able to pass.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those are just like very real all the time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't
Court,
ever
do you
know.
want to be the last member of our podcast?
Yeah. Do you want to just join us? Like, you just come in anytime
Yes.
we are having, like, just get in and we'll just have these talks all
Just
the time.
teach us.
Yes.
Because
Oh
Will you
my
get,
God,
do I
yes.
get a cocktail next time?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
For
You
sure.
can come in studio with us. And
Okay.
love that.
Deal.
Okay, so I want to know, well, this is two questions. What's one thing about sex or intimacy that you wish more people knew? And is
Mm.
there a myth about sex that you would like to permanently like retire, put to
Yeah.
rest?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think everyone should listen to this piece of it's a speech spoken by Audre Lorde. It's also written. It's called "The Uses of the Erotic," and she speaks about the differences between the erotic and the pornographic. And I think that there is value in the pornographic, but our world has become so focused around the pornographic that we've forgotten much of the erotic. And my invitation in with my clients and my community, and just like my purpose here, is for people to explore the erotic. It's not to say that the pornographic is bad or you got to get rid of it or that it's ever going away, because it's not. It's here to stay. And I'm not just talking about pornography, I'm talking about the way that we view sex, the way that we educate ourselves around sex. Pornography is not sex, it is presentation, It is performance of sex. And yet our brains cannot make the differentiation. And so leaning into eroticism is about aliveness, turn on, listening, attunement, embodiment, coming back to ourselves from a movement, a dance. Like, how does my body want to move? What are the sounds I want to make? What is the flavor in my mouth? What is the feeling of the wind on my skin when I ride my scooter down the street, which I love to do, by the way? You know, these are erotic moments for me. And if I were to speak to you individually, I would imagine that there are already ways that you express eroticism in your life, which is like that life force energy, that thing that gets you up in the morning, that you are like driven by. That's eroticism, and how we feel it and how we pay attention to it. And can we follow that instead of, he's got a big dick, right? Can we look at somebody as more than just the genitals? Can we allow ourselves
I really
to,
am. I
yeah,
really am. I'm
you know,
working
it's not to say,
I believe
again,
in you, friend.
I'm
it's
working
not
on
to
it.
say that that's wrong or bad. It's just like, can we expand the picture? Can we open the aperture just a little bit
Yeah.
to see one another in a different way and see
Yeah.
ourselves in a different way?
I love that.
Yeah, because
I
you
think,
just open up your whole world
World.
to a
yes.
whole lot of flavors.
I thought you were going to say open up
All
your
I heard
hole.
was you say you want to open up your hole. I literally all
I
I
did
heard
too,
was
I heard
open
it.
up hole, and I was just like, well, yes, that's what I've been doing, but clearly it ain't working.
Listen, any hole is a goal.
There we
Any
go.
hole is a
The
goal.
goal.
So before we go, we wanted to have you talk about the inspiration behind the BodyVox really quickly, because I think it's so important that people understand the work that you're doing there as well. So can you give us a little bit of that?
Yeah, so the BodyVox offers workshops and retreats and individual coaching immersions for GBTQ men, mask identifying humans. And I do retreats in Joshua Tree a lot. I do retreats in Mexico. I do roughly four to six large events per year. My retreats are anywhere from 9 to 12 men, and my bigger events of the year, I have one coming up in December called Connect, which is usually around 21 men. And then I'll do that again probably in the middle of the year. And they're little different formats. Those are 4 days, and then my retreats are 7 days long.
Wow, I love that. So people can find out more information by going to your website. Just in case, are you still taking new clients on? Like, or is there a specific time that they need to sign up? How does that exactly work?
So I don't know when this will air, but I will start promoting Connect in September more actively. It's on the
Oh yes,
website.
it'll air definitely before then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we'll be
it's on the website.
We'll have you come on.
It's on Instagram. And that one will be about 21 men in Joshua Tree.
Okay.
And it's a really beautiful event. It's a 4-day, starts on Thursday, ends on Sunday. I have a great team that I work with. And it's an introduction to my work. And a lot of times people will decide to come do longer format retreats, or they'll decide to do private work with me or one of my staff. So, you know, the work has really been intended to support deep exploration of GBTQ men. This is not like a surface, like, let's go do like a tantric pleasure party.
Let's go take a bunch of shrooms in the woods.
Wonderful too. That's wonderful too. It's just, there's a little more self-reflection in the work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much.
Cool. So we have to save our money so we can send you to.
Save our pennies.
Yeah, because apparently I
Yes.
need to come, Court. I need to come. Oh, that didn't
Two
land
different
well.
things.
That didn't land
Two
well. I
different
need to
things.
come to your retreat.
Yeah.
I know you were doing.
Yeah, no, actually, well, you know. So the last thing is, I will give the last question for Adam to ask you what we ask all of our co-hosts.
Yeah, all of our guests. What does pride mean to you?
You know, pride is sort of the equivalent of my queerness, right? I am not hiding in any shape or form. I am very public with who I am. I'm very public with the work that I do. I'm very public with the leadership that I'm offering, embodied leadership. my pride is not something that is a month out of the year. It is something that is consistent. Um, it's something that is second nature to me at this point. It's not something that I'm constantly thinking about. It's the way that I write. It's the way that I teach. Um, and that is also like how I link my queerness is not so much around my sexuality, but my identity as a person that doesn't quite fit in a traditional structure of culture, and my loving of that.
Mm.
My loving of that. I
Mhm.
love the fact that I was working at Disney and doing Rogue Shibari.
I think that's so cool.
I know that.
Like-
I love it.
Like the subversion of that just gets me off. But I
Yeah, I mean, yes.
So
Honestly, I was
cool.
gonna say the same thing, but see, I don't want to be inappropriate. But yes, it does. I think that is so hot.
So sexy.
Mhm.
So that's how I would define my pride and also my queerness.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
I love that. Thank you,
Yes.
Court, for joining us.
You guys are fun.
Well, we have to, and
Thanks.
this is an official invitation. And when we send these, we mean this. Like, we'd love for you to come back.
Yes.
Back in the fall. Like, I think that
Do hot
there-
topics.
Do hot topics. There's so
Okay.
much discussion though around sex that you can't get to in a 20-minute time frame. You know, there's
Yeah.
you know, and I'm
Yeah.
sure our listeners are going to be very like enthralled with this episode to hear. So we would love for you to come back and join us in the fall when we come back.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so
Court.
much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
guys.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.